Hi friends, and welcome to the channel. If you've never seen my face before, I'm Olivia, and as you see behind me, I am a fragrance enthusiast, reviewer, whatever you'd like to call me. And if you have seen my face before, welcome back friends. I'm so happy to have you here. I did a little poll over on my Instagram to see what would you guys like to see this week? And I actually had quite a few people mention that they wanted me to do a little bit more of an in-depth review on the fragrances that I wore on my vacation. We went to Panama City and we also went to Pacifica, which is out in the countryside, small beach town. And it was nice to have a little reset, a little getaway. I curated the fragrances that I was going to wear down there, very specific to the weather. Let's just talk about that for a second. So oftentimes when I put up videos and I say my experience of the longevity of a product, people will be like, no, that only lasted an hour. It is so incredibly dependent on the weather that you live in. And I got a firsthand experience with that. In Los Angeles, well lately it's been very gloomy and gray and it's been like 60 degrees. It just feels like I'm living in Seattle, but typically it gets very hot here, but very dry. There's almost no humidity. It's very, very dry, which makes for a fragrance to be very, very strong, but it doesn't fade very quickly. And when I was in Panama, it was super humid. So I couldn't even really wear lotion without it sliding right off my body. Kind of a gross feeling, won't lie. Fragrances did not last down there. Next time someone says, oh, this lasted about 4 hours or 6 hours for me, before you say, well, no, it only lasted an hour for me, just check your weather. It also has to do with physical body chemistry, so it's not that the person is trying to be deceptive or lie. It might just be that the weather is completely different, because I was shocked that some fragrances that I know for a fact in Los Angeles last a very long time did not last at all in Panama because I would just sweat them off. Very last minute, I was looking through my travel size stuff trying to find what like body wash I would use and shampoo. And I saw that I had a small sample of Melrose Place perfume. And so I decided to throw that in my little bag of mini perfumes to take down with me. I have had a lot of people message me asking if I could review Ouai fragrances or their products or their lotions. And I hadn't tried any before. That fragrance was beautiful. So let's talk about it. So the fragrance is called Melrose Place, and it starts off with this fizzy, sparkling champagne. It also has red berries, so think of like a sparkling rosé. And it has pink pepper, but I didn't find it irritating. I found it that it just gave a light bit of spiciness, but predominantly it's a floral fragrance. But don't think of a really strong, heavy, mature floral. They were very bright, they were very sweet and sparkling. It almost had a sort of watermelon-y touch to it because I know it has the note of lychee. But it has rose and peony that are very sheer, very pink florals. Think like watery, girly, sparkling, sweet. And I would say that that was my most complimented fragrance that I wore of all of the time. And I found that interesting because I wasn't even going to pack it. I just found it kind of tucked away in my cabinet in my little Sephora birthday gift. And so I tossed it in there and it smells incredible. But then a little serendipity happened. Got a really big package and surprisingly enough, let me show you what was in it. How cute is this little washing machine? So this is from the brand DedCool, and they actually partnered with Ouai, the hair care company, to come out with a laundry detergent that is scented in the perfume I was just talking about. So it was bizarre because I had never smelled that fragrance before. I had no intentions of bringing it with me. And then when I came home, I got this little package. So they're called DedTergents, like detergent, but DedTergents because they're dead cool. Natural base, they're vegan, they're meant for sensitive skin, and their packaging is recyclable. So they are supposed to be like a sustainable. So I haven't used this yet. I will check back with you guys. I just found it a funny serendipity and I thought the packaging was cute. So let's get into the fragrances. Okay, first off is Lime Sands from Skylar. Now, this is such a refreshing fragrance. This is perfect for spring and summer, specifically for the really hot days. So if you live in a climate that is just hot all the time, this would be a great thing to look into because as one imagines, you have lime, right? You have a very juicy, bright, tart, sparkling lime that's complemented with a really salty note. Get a bit of coconut water that isn't thick or creamy. It's very sheer, it's refreshing. So it kind of smells a little bit like a mojito sans the mint. This also has a musk. And what's interesting with a lot of these Skylar fragrances is a lot of them smell like clean laundry detergent to me, like a really strong laundry detergent. So I've said this before in past videos, but what this reminds me of is this smells like you are drinking like a tropical lime coconut salted rim drink on the beach, but you're sitting on like a fluffy, freshly washed, thick beach blanket. That's what this smells like. I would have to say that Boardwalk Delight and Lime Sands from Skylar are around the same kind of vein where you have the lime coconut salty, but then it has that detergent-y smell. Also comes in the same kind of form with Boardwalk Delight, which is like a cotton candy coconut milk. So this one's sweeter, this one's tart, and then this also has that same laundry detergent. So if you like this one, you'll definitely like this one and vice versa. These both have a really intoxicating cleanness about them while also having something very whimsical. So this is the one that I brought with me, but it's a heavy contender to these two. These two, along with Salt Air by Skylar, those are my top 3 of Skylar of all time. Next is Paradiso by the Maker. Now, this is a fruity floral, but this is incredibly unexpected. So I hadn't really had much of an opportunity to try this on skin before my vacation. And this one really, really surprised me because this has some really interesting notes. So let me read you the notes specifically. You have blood orange, mangosteen, Sicilian bergamot, myrtle, ambrette, plumeria, oak moss, cedar, and patchouli. Something about that oak moss and patchouli mixed in with the more tart notes of the citruses in the beginning gives it almost a fruity marijuana type scent to it. And if you guys have been on this channel, I love my marijuana fragrances. I am wearing London Funk by Wilhelm right now, which smells like dank weed. This also has something very similar, but I don't care for patchouli. I won't lie, I don't care for patchouli, but there's something about this that is a very fresh, natural green take to patchouli, and that oak moss gives it a beautiful earthiness that gives this a complexity. This is a very, very complex fragrance, whereas the last one is just flirty and fun and a little bit young. This is significantly more mature and interesting. So if you are really a perfume lover and you want something that is fruity and floral and a little bit tangy and interesting, this one is really, really complex. It really does smell like a tropical paradise where you smell fruits growing in the background and you're sitting on the beach and someone is smoking a little marijuana and everything smells natural, and I really enjoyed it. So that's Paradiso by the Maker. Next, a very, very refreshing one, but a little bit more on the masculine side. This is Ego Stratus by Juliet Has a Gun. It's interesting because I have heard quite a few different reviews for this fragrance. So what this is to me is this is quite simply a masculine, aquatic, fresh fragrance. It's very simple, it's not very unique, it's not very complex, but it does have a little bit of a fruity shampoo type vibe to it. So imagine you've got like Acqua di Gio, right? Like men's cologne, fresh, aquatic, and you mix it in with like Garnier Fructis shampoo. So it does have this kind of unisexuality to it that is very interesting to me, because I think a lot of people would smell this and think, it just smells masculine. But when you smell further and you smell that muskiness and you smell that fruitiness, it is very intriguing. And at least it is very, very refreshing. I feel like this is one that is the perfect day-to-day, if you're going to do errands, something in summer that you just want to throw on. You smell fresh and clean, a little bit masculine, but also a little bit fruity. And I feel like I'm describing myself a little masculine, a little fruity. If you vibe with my aesthetic, this is for us. That's all I need to say. Next is the ultimate beach fragrance. I know I've talked about this fragrance a million times on my channel, but it deserves it. It's by the brand DefineMe, and the scent is called Kahana. And this is your refreshing coconut water meets a little bit floral with hibiscus. It's got a little bit of woodiness, but this smells like a non-alcoholic, refreshing, tropical coconut water drink that you would get on the beach. I feel like this is a coconut water fragrance that's more sheer, that actually lasts. I also love that, I don't know if you guys can see, this has crystals in the container. So if you believe in the power of crystals, you can reap the benefits of it in your fragrance. And I have to be totally real. I have to be totally real with you guys. I'm not really a believer in crystals and Reiki. If that works for you, fantastic. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that I hadn't had the experience myself. But I will say, when I was on vacation, I had Reiki for the first time. To be honest, I didn't really care about the Reiki portion. I just wanted the massage. So, you know, she put the crystals on my chakras, and then she began to, you know, touch different parts of my body. I asked her afterwards, is there some sort of significance, like when you touch a certain area and you kind of like see a color in your eyes? And I totally thought that maybe she closed the blinds and it was casting a light onto my face. But the minute she touched my head, it was like the most bright, blinding violet I had ever seen. And it was just like, it overtook my eyes to the point where I was like, is there like a shadow on my face right now causing me to see that? But the thing is, the moment she brought her hands off of my head, the color was gone. It didn't happen for any of the other chakras. So I asked her, and she said, that is your crown chakra. That is your like connection to the spirit realm. And the color is violet. And so when I told her, she was like, just kind of paused and like stared at me for a second. I was like, what? Like, what is it? And she just goes like this, and her hair was just stood on end. She was like, you must have a very strong connection to the life beyond, the spirits, I don't know, the universe. So that kind of sat very oddly with me. And that's what made me think of it. Crystals. Next is Papaya Isla by Abbott. Now this is one of the clean vegan brands that you can get at Sephora. I believe these retail for $84, so they are pretty good price. And I've noticed that a couple from this brand don't necessarily last very long, but this one in particular lasts pretty well for me. And even in the hot, sticky weather, I didn't have a problem with this. As one would imagine, it's supposed to smell sweet and fruity like papaya, but it also has the note of jungle greens. So it's almost as if you were walking through a thick vegetal jungle forest, right? And you have like the tropical air around you, and then you have fresh fruits that you're eating as you're walking through this like jungle safari. But I don't necessarily correlate it to papaya, because to me, papaya, and I do enjoy the fruit, but tell me if you experience this as well, papaya smells like stomach acid. Therefore, it kind of smells like vomit. I mean, sorry, it does. There's actually an enzyme that apparently is similar to an enzyme in your stomach acid. I think it's called papain. This smells like you're walking through a tropical jungle on a safari and you are eating like a fresh peach or something like that, like a pear, something that's on the sweeter side. Papaya to me has a distinctly stomach acid smell, and this does not have that, luckily. It also has a beautiful ambroxan base that I think is what made it really stick around. So yeah, Papaya Isla. Next is a green fragrance that is very unique and is not sweet. So if you're looking for something that's not a fruity green fragrance, this one is really cool. So this is Pearla Nera. I've talked about this brand before, and this is called Belinda. And you can get this at a really reasonable price on Amazon. And when I first got this one, it really reminded me of a green fragrance. I am not really a fan of green fragrances, but one that really stole my heart when I went to Rome last year was Ignutia by Perfume Aroma. And this one is quite a bit more grassy. That one is like truly green, green, green. But this one, very similar, but you get a little bit of fruitiness in there because you have fig. Fig is both floral, fruity, sweet, and green all at the same time. So it makes it very complex. You also have a petitgrain that gives it almost a dry, slightly hay-like texture to it. And you have lotus that gives it, once again, a floral touch, but very aquatic and watery and fresh. So this is perfectly unisex, green, fresh, refreshing, and just very, very interesting. And I adore the note of fig in here. It almost reminds me a tiny bit of like a very natural smelling aftershave, but it's not so masculine. Next is Tahitian Gardenia from Pacifica. Now, in one of my previous videos, I talked about this bearing a little bit of a resemblance to Toka Florence or Narcotic V by Nasamato. And I guess on first spray, perhaps they do, but I'm gonna take that statement back a little bit just because this is a Gardenia jasmine fragrance that has a ton of soapiness. So I did say in the other one that it was similar, but it was way more soapy. When it's on the skin, it just really doesn't react the same as it does on paper. So if you like a white floral, prominent white floral with a strong soapiness, something that gives a little bit of a vintage hand soap type vibe, then you would like this. This actually got me a couple compliments, and surprisingly enough from guys. I find it funny how many people say, oh yeah, guys don't like floral fragrances. I'm like, I don't know, I've kind of always been complimented by men when wearing floral fragrances, so can't say that I agree. But yeah, if you like Gardenia, you want something soapy and really, really affordable, this lasts quite a long time too. I didn't have issues with the longevity of this one. So that's Tahitian Gardenia by Pacifica. Next, another really affordable one, we have Sparkling Hibiscus by Mixbar. You can find this at Target for like $20. This is really fun for summer because this is a sparkling champagne hibiscus citrusy type scent. So this to me is candied sweet. It is sweet and sparkling and syrupy and just a little bit floral. So it's not very complex, but it is so fun and refreshing and tangy and juicy. So it almost, when I smell it, gives me that kind of quality of like a sweet and sour candy where you're both like puckering your face, but it's also like, that's very sweet too. So imagine that in like a champagne hibiscus flavor. That's what I'm getting from this. So simple, but really fun for summer. Cheap, effective, it's a good one. Sparkling Hibiscus by Mixbar. Sticking on the fun, sweet, refreshing side of things, this is Floral Street's Sunflower Pop. And this is interesting because this also shares some of those qualities. So I realize I now have 3 different fragrances in this lineup that either have a champagne type note, but this one has Bellini, similar enough. And this also has passion fruit. So once again, you're getting that sweet, tangy quality, but this one is a little bit more complex because you have the note of orris that gives it a waxy, powdery, creamy, makeup-y touch that is just light in the background. It doesn't overpower anything. And you also have the note of amber and honey that give it almost a warm, sweet dry down. So you get tangy, refreshing, sparkling, but you also get that complexity of a little bit of powdery creaminess and a little bit of warm stickiness from the honey and the amber. This one is almost like the big sister of Sparkling Hibiscus. This is the more refined. I don't think that I respected the complexity of this until I had it on vacation, Because when you first spray it, you're like, yeah, it's a cute citrus, cool. But then as it dried down, I was like, oh, you've got some character. You've got some layers. You are an onion. And very, very different from all of the ones that I wore on the trip. This is Sacred Water by the Harmonist. Now, this has some really interesting notes because you have spicy mint, but don't think of a candy type mint. Think of an actual mint leaf that you've crushed up and kind of rubbed into your hands, and you smell it, and it's like that true herbaceous mint. That's a little bit spicy. That's what you get. But then you have the note of seaweed and like ocean water, which for some people, along with the ambergris in there, I think could be too salty and too marine and aquatic and maybe a bit off-putting. But to me, I find this refreshing, a bit herbal and minty and bright, and a little bit floral, and I find this almost like serene. You are at an outdoor spa, having a massage, having Reiki and seeing visions, while you can hear the ocean waves like crashing in the background. This is what this smells like. This is completely unisex because it smells like a luxury spa. That mint adds this really cool herbal touch that is cooling. It's not heavily menthol. And that seaweed and the ambergris just add this salty textural component that's super interesting to me. So I find this absolutely magnificent. And what this kind of reminds me of just a little bit, they're not dupes, they're not similar, but they're along the same lines. Maybe they're distant cousins, is Loda Izzy by Izzy Miyake. So if you like that very strong, floral, aquatic, refreshing fragrance, this is kind of what it reminds me of. So that was the Harmonist Sacred Water. I feel like I rambled on today, but I don't mind it, and I hope you guys don't either, and I hope that you join me next week. I have a new video every Saturday, 10 a.m. PST, and if you haven't subscribed already, you know what, I'm not even gonna ask you. You subscribe if you want to, okay? All right, and until next weekend, take care of yourselves, my friends.